Well, strap the fuck in, because it's gonna be a long one. This is going to be an unscripted, pointed rant about Borderlands 4 and everything that I've seen the community talk about as of recent. The first thing I wanted to tackle and get out of the way is who/what is the Timekeeper. Obviously, many people may know that he is a vault monster. However, we don't know if he is artificial or natural monster, whether he was imprisoned or whether he was made. The warrior was made, and the destroyer was imprisoned. However, many people are speculating, because of the artificial nature of this vault symbol behind him, that he is man-made, or Iridian-made. We don't know what his powers will look like, however, he is floating at one point in the trailer. The Timekeeper is most likely made for a reason. We don't know exactly what that reason is, however, obviously we can speculate. Timekeeper, he keeps time.
Here, no shit, Sherlock.
Another very quick and very over-talked point that I just want to get off really quickly is the Vault Hunters. The Vault Hunters look bland. They look boring. They don't really have a character. And again, I hear a lot of people saying, oh, well, Borderlands 2 didn't have, you know, the greatest characters either. They were very samey. You know, Sal is just a dude in a t-shirt. Axton looks like a generous soldier. Maya's just, you know, a girl with some tattoos. Stuff like that. And I do get that sentiment, however, I want to also bring up a point, that being the Black Ops 1 Zombies characters. If you don't know, for some reason, Dempsey, Nikolai, Richtofen, and Takio.
1 million, zillion, jillion, dillion, cotillion times later.
The point I want to get out is, generic isn't always bad. It's not always a bad thing to be generic. However, it needs to be done with purpose. And I feel like a lot of the new characters that have come out have either had a purpose that people don't really want to hear, for lack of a better word, or they've come out with no purpose at all. And it's okay to have generic characters, but again, they need to be iconic. These four characters are samey. Dude's got big arms. I mean, this dude's in a puff vest and shorts. What are we talking about here? I mean, I hesitate to say, but it feels samey. It feels like we are to expect cringe. We are to expect just safeness in general. And I don't know if that's what Borderlands needs right now.
Yeah! A claptrap thing.
Solutions typically generate a 30% increase in market share. Good for business!
Sound like
God, Jesus Christ.
I'm playing four-dimensional chess.
I'm a
Fuck me, oh my god. That intro led me to believe that it would be fun bad. I am so sorry. That was a bad read. You know, sometimes you make a bad read. Yikes. Yikes.
And this is a side point to that, but it's also its own point. I forget the exact person's name, I'll put them up here. It was a video that was made and it was brought up. This character could be Emily Swan, who is a character from the pre-sequel who we didn't really get expanded on, but she was basically given Iridian powers. She was very, very sick, she was very weak, and the Watcher saved her with a big purple glow, so either healed her herself or gave her powers. And if the Watcher gave Emily Swan powers and there was a big purple glow, this siren has purple tattoos and these little wings. These little wings are very similar to these on an actual Iridian. So it actually gives this point a lot of credence if it is Emily Swan. And if it is, that would be really, really cool. And I hope they save that until the game actually comes out. I really hope they don't release it or just give her, you know, give them standard names. Do it. The tank, the siren, the warrior, or the soldier, you know, they give them generic names. games for now, especially Emily Swan, if that is Emily Swan. That would be really awesome. But again, I really don't know how Gearbox would pull it off. They do have a very bad history of flopping recently. Another one I wanted to point out is the enemy design. I've heard it a little bit, and I wanted to just quickly get it out of the way. I really don't want them to be reskins and recolors of the previous enemies that we've already seen. I really hope with this artificialness that we see some new enemy types, some really diverse enemies. I mean, they can go really crazy. They could do a lot of really crazy Iridian types. They could have emerging one, you know, they could do a lot of cool things, and I hope they do it, and I hope they can just make it really cool and not samey, you know, not make these enemies just reskins and recolors again. That's basically all I really wanted to say for the enemy design. And this is another point I wanted to just get out of the way. I hear a lot of people talking about the grappling hook. I really hear everybody saying, I hope it's not locked to one area. I hope it's not just this. I hope that it is. I'm gonna tell you right now, the grappling hooks will not expand further than these little red dots. I'm gonna be 100% with everybody. Do not expect to be able to grapple anywhere you would like. However, these are traversal points, so you may be able to, again, you know, grapple to them and shoot while you're grappling and do unique things. And again, there was an air dash, which we actually did see. It was just kind of hard to notice. So there's a lot of traversal options. Those may be comboed together, but don't expect to just fly around like a ninja. Okay, this is still Borderlands. I don't think they're going very crazy, at least in Borderlands 4. Another thing is farming spots. Now, I don't know if you've really noticed, but a lot of the iconic farming spots from Borderlands 2 kind of aren't there. Now, I mean, we have the Grave Ward farm and we have the Scrap Trap farm. We have some of those farms in Borderlands 3. However, it's not the same thing. It feels like Borderlands 3, every boss is meant to be a farm, and a lot of the bound farms, I guess you could say, are eliminated. Now, what exactly do I mean by that? Borderlands 2 loot midget farming. Even Pyro Pete's bar. A lot of people would farm this for the Torque tokens in order to buy good guns from the Torque shop. You know, maybe there would be a perfect in there and they would buy it. However, you needed a lot of those points. So you needed to farm up other things in order to do this. In Borderlands 3, a lot of this just felt like farm boss 1, farm boss 2, farm boss 3, farm boss 4. And not so much as farm who you can. And I struggle to find the perfect words for this, but Borderlands 2 just felt good with loot. When you got loot, no matter what the loot was, you always looked at it. It was unique. It was interesting.
Bazooka! Let's go! Let's go! They heard me.
Oh, Tommy, there we got one actually. What do we got? We got a class mod. Oh, what? I actually got one that's better than mine. I know. Wow! Ah! Ah! Oh! That is something you don't see every day.
And this is another point I'm also going to get into in the next point, but you wanted to look at the Legendaries. You wanted to look at Pearls. You wanted to look at some of the Serifs if they drop. And you wanted to farm different sources in order to get those drops. And you could farm them at any point. You could farm every single boss and you could have next to a perfect build, but you still want better. So you still go back to bosses that you farmed 100 hours ago, 300 hours ago. In Borderlands 3, it felt more as a step up. It was always 1, 2, 3, 4, and you always had to go up the stairs. And in Borderlands 2, it almost felt more like snakes and ladders. Sometimes you could go up, sometimes you could go down, sometimes you could go way down, sometimes you could go up. But there was never a losing point, so going down never made it worse. Going up didn't make it 10 times better. However, I mean, there were quicker farms, and there were quicker things, but that wasn't the only thing that people did in Borderlands 2. And again, Borderlands 3 just kind of lost that, I feel. It lost a lot of the freedom and the chase. The chase is a big thing that Borderlands 3 lost, because once you farm the same boss 6 times in a row, you have 13 different class mods of the same exact thing that all work for different builds and that are all basically perfect. So it's very hard to find a chase. There are perfects, don't get me wrong, 100% perfects, but it just feels easier. And so this gets into the next point, where we've lost the legendary feeling, as well as the missing rarities and weapon types. I mean, where are E-Techs? Where are Pearls? Where are Serifs? Where are glitch weapons? Where are the unique weapons? I mean, you go play through Borderlands 2, pick up 2 guns from 2 different manufacturers of 2 different rarities, and tell me if they're similar. Now go do it in Borderlands 3. I bet you it will be 5 times easier in Borderlands 3 than it will in Borderlands 2, if not more. So that brings a problem to the sameness and the loss of character from Borderlands, and that's what we need back. We really need a good Borderlands here. If not, Borderlands will fail as a franchise. If not, it's already there. I have also seen people talk about hybrids coming back from Borderlands 1, and if you don't know, because a lot of people don't, let's be real, hybrids were when 2 unique weapons could have a part from that unique weapon on another unique weapon, which would give them both benefits of the weapon, so you could have some really overpowered weapons. It could be really cool to see those return. However, I don't know how they would do it. Maybe you could have some sort of grinder aspect where if you used iridium or some other feature, you could grind up legendaries or pearls if they return, hopefully. Let's not pray too hard on that, let's be real. You could grind them all up together and hope that maybe there's, say, a under 5% chance that you get a very good weapon from that, a hybrid weapon from that. That could be good. There's always a chase. However, I don't see them doing it very well. And I don't want legendaries. This is a very big point, and this is part of it. I don't want legendaries to feel like a blue weapon. I got a Maggie at level 7 in Borderlands 3 on a new playthrough. I got a Maggie. It carried me. That Maggie carried me all the way until after Captain Trant on Athena, or Athenas, or whatever that planet is. The Maya's planet. Until after that, you were lucky to get a good weapon, and that was randomly. That was completely randomly. I was just playing through the mission. I wasn't farming anything. A random guy dropped it, random boss or whatever dropped it. Random pistol pool. Boom, Maggie carried me the rest of the game. That was a choice in Borderlands 2. You could get an Unkempt Herald at level 10, but you didn't have to. In Borderlands 2, it happens randomly and carries you throughout the whole game, and then it's just a rush to max level. It always feels like the game's trying to push you to the very end. We want to enjoy the game as a game. We don't want to just, get to the very end, farm the same, the Malawan takedown, farm the same raid boss. We don't want to do that. We want to have a big range of options. This is another really quick point that I want to get into. Borderlands 3 improvements need to be kept. Everything like the max level skips, buy all, auto sell, all of that stuff needs to stay. I don't know why. I don't know who said it was a good who told these people it was a good idea. Why do we leave out good improvements from other games? Stop doing it. Give us the good improvements. I don't know why games leave this out. Anyways, besides the point.
We tired of playing with your ass, nigga. Today your ass is gonna die, bitch. Say goodnight, motherfucker.
A personal aside to this of improvements, just general improvements, I would really like to see single point respecking. I didn't really see a lot of people talk about it, but I did see it once or twice, of a single point respect. I do not want to go to a respec station and respec every single skill at the same time. I want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, I want to unspec one skill at a time if possible, or respec the whole thing. That would be great. Or even one whole tree. That would be great. Anyways, I want to get away from that. Get into the real meat and potatoes of this. The game itself, really. The replayability. Replayability cannot be forced. This game can't be, again, like Borderlands 3, always pushing you through a certain set of steps and always a stepping stone kind of thing. It can't feel like that. It needs to feel like a big open garden with 8 different paths. That's what it feels like Borderlands 2 is. I mean, you have to do the main story to beat the game, yes, but do you want to go farm a fastball and do grenade mods? Do you want to do melee? Do you want to do the Unkempt Herald? Do you want to try to get a B shield as fast as possible? Do you there's 8 different ways at least to go in Borderlands 2, and it feels like in Borderlands 3 it just wants you to do it. It wants you to do what it wants you to do when it wants you to do it, and I feel like we need to stray away from it. Hello? Yeah. I guess I'll be back. Borderlands 3 had the charge for Malawan weapons and the switching for Vladoff and some of the other uniqueness of manufacturers, but those were broad changes. So you had differences between Hyperion shotguns in Borderlands 2, but every Hyperion shotgun in Borderlands 3 feels like just a shotgun with a shield. A Jacob's weapon just feels like a sniper, an old style rifle, something like that. There's not much uniqueness in the general weapons. The manufacturers are unique, yes. The weapons, no. So replayability can't be forced, but it will come from a good story. It will come from good gameplay. It will come from these unique vault hunters and stories and a chase. The Borderlands community, Borderlands players love a chase. They love chasing perfect weapons. They love getting good gear. They love the rush of seeing an explosion and it actually meaning something. Not just an explosion of orange and purple and green and blue and it's always the same thing, but when one of those big explosions happen and you see a legendary or even two, you actually get excited. That's what Borderlands players love, and that's where the replayability will come from. So moving on, I've seen a lot of people talk about DLC Vault Hunters returning, whether they're paid or whether, however they introduce it. I've seen actually a lot of people say that they would even pay for good DLC Vault Hunters. And let me just remind everybody, people also bought Gauge, okay? And they still will buy Gauge. So, people will do it. So I think maybe they could introduce DLC Vault Hunters in a different way. Maybe they could do community events, or they get unlocked through a DLC. I know it's a little bit...
No. Wait.
This is a very general point, and it's brought up through some of the previous points, and it is even brought up slightly through some of the later points. But I just want to say, build diversity is very important. And hold on, before you even say anything, Borderlands 2 had good build diversity. Melee 0, One Shot 0, the Kunai Elemental 0, Krieg, Bloodsplosion Krieg, Shotgun Krieg, Axton with his turret Axton, Grenade Axton, Assault Rifle Axton. You could go on, and everybody loves to say, oh, but Sal, it's Sal, Grog Nozzle, Unkempt Herald. Yes, that is a thing, but that wasn't the only thing. That was just the most iconic. Everybody ran to the Unkempt Herald, the Grog Nozzle, the B Shield, Fastball, the Magic Missile. They all ran to set items, and that's okay. But those weren't, again, the only items that you could choose from. It feels like in Borderlands 3, you kind of have to use the Tizzy with a certain shield and the Pearl, and you have to follow the stepping stones. And that's a little bit more frustrating. A lot of the diversity in Borderlands 3 basically just boils down to the kill skills. And that's not as fun. I know there's, melee Amara and then gun Amara, and there's a few changes that you can make, but at the end of the day, the most effective things are all very similar in the endgame of Borderlands 3. And that feels a little less fun than in Borderlands 2. So moving on, these are two personal points that I wanted to get into. The social hub. So we've always had a social tab in Borderlands, but it's never really meant a whole lot. Now in Borderlands 3, you could send mail and you could do a lot of stuff like that, and that's great. That should return. However, it would be cool to see that expanded. Maybe some of the NPCs might gain the names of your friends, say like Black Ops 1 The Moon, where the astronaut would gain a random list or a random name of your friend, which I'll bring that up in a later point. But some of your friends could be walking around in Sanctuary, or whatever the city is. And that could be really cool, and it brings a little bit more fun to the game, even if you're just by yourself, because you can be running around and say, oh hey, look, what are you doing, and whatever. And maybe those NPCs might have a trade option where there's a random gun, kind of like the machine outside of Earl's room where you can buy story uniques. Maybe that's another way that they could introduce that. That would be really cool. And another thing, kind of along guns and the social tab and everything like that, is a global trade / auction house. I don't know how they would do an auction house. I don't even know how a trade system would really work that well, but I think it would be really, really, really cool to just be able to open a tab, put up some weapons. Maybe you find a really, really good weapon for a character and you don't play that character, but then you could put it up on an auction tab and trade it to somebody or sell it to somebody, they would give you money or iridium, and they give you those instead of you just throwing it out, selling it, or keeping it for eventually another character. That could be really awesome. Just a personal idea that I wanted to throw out there. I didn't see many people talking about this, if any at all, but I want Sanctuary to be a city. Actually, I didn't see a whole ton of people, but I did see someone bring up a point of having fun running around in Sanctuary and enjoying Sanctuary. And I thought back, and Sanctuary, and even Concordia in the pre-sequel, and a lot of the hub cities are really fun to play in. They're fun to run around in. And Sanctuary the ship, Sanctuary 3, didn't feel as fun. It felt more claustrophobic. It felt more sectioned off, not as involved. And it was very bland. So I really hope that they can change that and they can go back to an actual city again. I feel like that would make the game a lot more memorable. Okay, so I didn't really see a lot of people talk about this one either, if any that I can really remember, but cheese spots. This kind of ties into the farming spots a little bit, but the cheese spots aren't there with Borderlands 3. There's a few here and there, there's a few little tricks that you can do, but Borderlands 2 was, I feel, really iconic and memorable to me as a young kid because I could play the game how I wanted to play it. If I was having a lot of trouble or didn't like a character, or had bad weapons, whatever the case may be, I could run to a safe spot and hide away. You know, maybe I could regenerate grenades or get my action skill back. And a lot of that is gone from Borderlands 3. If you think about Tyreen in the final fight, you drop down into a very open arena with next to no cover, if any cover at all. Think about Grave Ward. He literally tilts the platform and barrages it with elemental stuff everywhere. And I feel like they forced that out of Borderlands 3. I feel like they forced a lot of these AFK or glitch spots, whatever you want to call it, out of Borderlands 3 specifically. And I don't think that's the right call. Having those spots makes it more accessible to a large range of people and also to a large range of builds. Think about how impossible a lot of the fights would be with Melee Krieg if you didn't have a place to go. You need an almost perfect Melee Krieg run and set up for, you know, sometimes hours just to kill a very hard boss with Krieg. And that's not very fun. Sometimes it takes hours to activate glitches in order to kill certain bosses with certain characters just because you don't have a good build, and then if that glitch fails or doesn't work, you don't do it properly, you waste all that time and you can't just run away and hide. Think about Terramorphous, think about the bunker, think about even Knuckle Dragger. So these spots, they don't need to be right in the open with a big pointed arrow and say hide here. But if you find a little rock cliff where for some reason the enemies it's very hard for the enemies to hit you, don't just go and remove it just because, oh, it's cheating. It might be cheating, but you don't have to go into those spots if you don't want to. Another thing, and it was done quite well in Borderlands 3, however they could do better with no standing around. A lot of the dialogue, you need to wait for Lilith to speak, you need to wait for dialogue in order to use the drop pods, you need to wait for dialogue in order to summon vehicles sometimes, you need to wait to open doors. There's so many points in the game where you're standing around and you just need to pull your phone out or put your thumb in your ass just to make the time go by faster. Nobody wants to do that. They want to play Borderlands, they want to get guns, they want to do all that stuff. If they want to listen to the story, have it playing, you know, while you're driving a car or while you're going through space, you know, you could interweave the commentary into the actual gameplay instead of just having it be there. Because the story, let's be honest, it's secondary in a Borderlands game. A lot of people, they don't care that much about the story realistically. They just want a good, fun game that they can play and get hooked into. That's all they want. Alright, we're getting near the end here. One thing I've also seen brought up is laser weapons. I've seen a lot of people talk about how Elpis crashed into the planet and, you know, maybe there's laser weapons returning, and I do think that's very likely. I'm gonna be honest, I think it is very, very likely, although I absolutely fucking hate laser weapons. I think everybody really does. I think they were done really dirty in the pre-sequel, but I think everybody generally hates the laser weapons, and I think they could do them much better. They could definitely do them much better, especially with the new techniques that they have available to them. They could definitely do it better. However, I don't know. I'm weary about laser weapons. That's all I have to say. along with the melee weapons from Tiny Tina's from Wonderlands. I personally did not play a lot of Wonderlands. I didn't really get into it as much, but I know there's a lot of melee weapons. The melee weapons look very cool. I think it would be very cool if they return. I don't know if it's super likely. I don't think it is, but I think it would be very cool. I would prefer the missing rarities over melee weapons and laser weapons. However, I think it is very likely that the laser weapons will end up returning. One thing I have seen brought up a little bit here and there are challenging bosses. The challenging bosses were, I feel, a defining part of Borderlands. Now, again, you could cheese all of these bosses, Pyro Pete, Terra, Bunker, but being a younger kid and playing through Borderlands 2, playing through the pre-sequel even, and then getting into Borderlands 3, I was a lot older in Borderlands when I got into Borderlands 3, and I get that. However, it was way easy. There was never a part where I was stuck, besides any of the other bullshit or glitches that Borderlands 3 had at launch. Borderlands 2 will always stick in my mind. It will always come back to me, and I will always remember hiding from Terra and trying over and over for hours straight. I remember one time trying to kill Terra for 7 hours because I wasn't using a very refined build. I was just trying to beat bosses. Was I mad? Yes. Was I pissed off? Yes. Did I want to uninstall the game? Yes. But I will always remember that. That's what I feel like they need to come back to. A lot of the bosses basically just equate to bullet sponges and a little weird mechanic here and there. And kind of along with the challenging bosses, another point is, I've seen a lot of people mentioning it, the game can't be too easy or hand-holdy. I don't want the game to tell me every single little detail about every single little thing and show me exactly every single tiny thing that I need to do. Some of the things are good. The damage value being higher, greater, all that's great. Just keep that there. However, OP NPCs that auto-revive you every single second you go down, very overpowered guns, very overpowered skills, all of these together make the game very easy and feel very hand-holdy. The game needs to make you feel like you did it, even if you did it cheatily, even if you hid it in a corner and let the NPC run around and kill everybody, and you know you were weaving in and out of a corner killing one guy at a time. Whether you did it cheatily or however, you know, did it like a wuss, whatever you want to say, make you feel like you did it instead of the OP NPCs being your guardian angel every 3 seconds. It's just, it feels too easy. Alright, these are the last few points. We're almost done. This is a big rant, I know. I'm sorry if you've got to this point and you listened through all of my bullshit. Thank you. This is already about a 3-hour recording. Thank you. Anyways, this is a personal aside. I really like the long but interesting DLCs. Think the Oasis DLC, think of the Torg campaign. These DLCs are memorable because you went through a mini story. Even the Handsome Jackpot, even though it was quite small, it's a great DLC because you run through a story. It's interesting. A lot of the other DLCs I feel didn't really have that. Even the Headhunter packs where you only fought one boss at a time and it took you 30 minutes to an hour to run through the full thing and get to the final boss. You know, Marcus's campaign, Christmas campaign, the Waddle Gobbler, Gluttony Gulch, whatever the thing was called. Those are memorable because they were stories. The only DLC that I can specifically remember off the top of my head, the first one that comes to my mind from Borderlands 3 is always the Handsome Jackpot. I remember them all because I've kind of been going through them and playing Borderlands 3 recently, so that's not as fair, but I don't even remember 2 of their names. I could list every single DLC and the side ones, at least their bosses and kind of what they are. I can't do that for Borderlands 3. I can name the Bounty of Blood, Arms Race, which I think isn't even a DLC. I think it was free. I'm actually not even sure about that. The Bounty of Blood and the Handsome Jackpot. Those are the only 2 that I could name. So those are the only 2 that I could easily name. The other ones, if I think about them, I could remember them or remember parts of them and stuff. I can remember the space one, the Xylorgos, Githian. I don't know what it's called. I can't really actually think of the other one right now. I'm going to be 100% honest. Hold on. Oh yeah, it was the Psycho Krieg one. I remember. Okay. I actually, that one completely skipped my mind. And I think those are all really cool ideas, but I just don't think they were done very properly. So I would like the interesting DLCs to come back. I know it's very hard, but yeah, I want the interesting DLCs to come back. And I know that varies person by person. But I feel like generally a lot of people liked the Oasis. They liked the Torque campaign. And a lot of people, I feel, liked the Handsome Jackpot as well. So more DLCs like that would be very good. So yeah, more DLCs like that, please. Now, this is the more, I'm gonna be honest, the very cynical part of the video. If you enjoyed that previous part, you didn't like the cynical stuff, or you don't want to really listen to more cynical stuff about Borderlands 4 or Borderlands or Gearbox in general, I mean, hop off, that's fine. I appreciate you for listening this far. If you want to continue about Borderlands 4 or Borderlands or Gearbox in general, I mean, hop off, that's fine. I appreciate you for listening this far. If you want to continue, Borderlands 4 will release on the Unreal 5 engine. Now, Borderlands 3 released on the Unreal 4 engine, and that had tremendous problems, along with a lot of other games that were releasing on the Unreal Engine 4 at the time. Same thing goes for Unreal 5. It is very unstable, there's a lot of problems on the development side currently, and that's what Borderlands 4 is supposed to be releasing with. And very recently I saw a video, it is supposed to be releasing quite soon, much sooner than you would even expect. So I'm very weary that Unreal 5 will bring this game very far down and will make this game an absolute flop again. They brought up as well the seamless world plus handcrafted pieces. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but is that not very similar, if not the exact same wording as Starfield? I don't want a Borderlands 4 Starfield. If we get a Borderlands 4 Starfield game,
fuck McDonald's. I'm finna crash into it on my mama.
If this happens, it will not be good for Gearbox. Why won't it be good for Gearbox? Well, this is the final point of the video. Again, this was all just unscripted, rambling, ranting, that kind of stuff. I have a bunch of points that I'm listing off and going through, but again, this was mostly just rambling. Well, Gearbox has failed a lot recently. Risk of Rain 2, a lot of developers have left, their newest DLC has completely failed, a lot of people are unhappy with that game development studio, as well as their publishing studio. Funnily enough, is Gearbox. Again, I mentioned previously, Borderlands 3 did very, very bad. Again, I've mentioned that I don't really like the pre-sequel, didn't like the laser weapons, not a lot of people liked the pre-sequel. They flopped with that. Recently, the movie came out. The movie did really, really bad. Tales 2 did really, really bad. A lot of people were unhappy with the story of Tales 2. So, that's why I'm a little bit worried. That's why I think we need to temper our expectations, and we need to hold out a little bit. Again, this was just an unscripted, unfiltered, semi-pointed rant about Borderlands 4. Now, I don't believe I have anything more to say, any more wishes, or any more takes. However, again, if you do, drop them down below. I'd be interested to hear and talk about that with you. Anyways, that's the good, the bad, and the Borderlands.